Well, to the 2016 race now, where Donald Trump has kept up something of a packed schedule ahead of his first debate against Hillary Clinton on Monday. Yesterday, in fact, the GOP nominee was in Pennsylvania, where he weighed in on the upcoming matchup at a campaign rally. Also, he did so, as you can see, while standing in line for a cheesesteak.
How's debate prep going right now?
Well, I'm here with
Democrats with Trump. Democrats with Trump.
I think it's going bad.
I have been all over the country. You probably noticed, right? Where is Hillary today? I think you're right. Now, well, they say she's been practicing for the debate.
Mo Elleithee was the spokesperson for Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign, also a former DNC spokesperson, and does join us now here on set. Mo, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Not something new from the GOP candidate there, proudly espousing the lack, to a degree, of preparation to this point he has undergone for the first debate come Monday. I also want to ask you about something that President Obama actually said yesterday, specifically with regard to what he hopes the electorate learns from Hillary Clinton, and acknowledging that he hopes that she shows them who she really is. He also acknowledged that there is a perception of her, among other things, of being untrustworthy. What then do you make of her ability come Monday to present a different side, something that we hear about from close friends and associates?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important for her to do. And it's tricky, right? Any debate, you've got two main objectives. You want people to walk away with a set of perceptions of you and with a set of perceptions of your opponent. That's in any normal debate. Add in the fact that there's going to be very little that's normal about this debate. There's going to be very little that's normal about debating a candidate like Donald Trump. So the pressure's on, and that's a tricky line to walk. But at the same time, I think it is incredibly important that she walk in there and she makes her compelling case as to how she is the champion for everyday Americans as compared to Donald Trump. If she can walk out of there with people understanding she, or at least beginning to think about her as their champion, and that Donald Trump is a guy who's only been in it for himself and not a guy you want to trust with the nuclear codes, then I think her team would call that a win.
There's an irresistible force, immovable object quality in the days now leading up to this. It has been said for months now. Both parties believe that maybe the best thing they have going for them is that their candidate is running against the other candidate. And so we have this clash now, if nothing else, of style and substance, as the Clinton campaign would have you believe. For something, a self-avowed policy wonk, then, how important is her sweet spot in a night that certainly does not seem to promise a whole lot of policy discussion?
Yeah, I think, debates are incredibly challenging for policy wonks, right? I mean, you would be hard-pressed to find anybody who is more prepared for the presidency than Hillary Clinton, because there's very few people out there that understand the complexities of the job and the policy that the next president's going to have to grapple with. But how do you distill that into a debate back and forth?
Up against an electorate, by the way, and right now the polls seem to suggest 42% nationally. Donald Trump supporters vastly have made their voice heard collectively. We don't care about policy. We don't need our candidate to know specifics at this point.
Well, I think, and I agree with that up to a point. I believe that people usually don't vote on policy, right? They vote on sort of a trust that you can lead the country with their shared worldview. Policy, though, is important as a proof point to that. Okay. And so the question is, how much do you get caught up in the weeds? They also want to know that you know enough to get the job done, and that's where I think she's got the advantage on Trump. And so she's got to be able to say, here's where I want to take the country at the 20,000-foot level, talk about the policy as the proof points, but then call out his inconsistencies at best, his lies at worst, his lack of substance, to sort of set that tone or set that stage that he's actually not ready for the job.
Is there a concern then on two major points? As somebody who said she's looking to fact check him during this debate, it would seem then that she's also saying, I'm going to get everything right So is there a concern, A, that she could get something wrong, or that B, specifically with regard to the email scandal? It was something that Bernie Sanders made very clear early on in the primary season in those debates that he had no interest in discussing. That will not be the case come Monday night. That if she delivers a variation of explanations that we have heard that have certainly not satisfied anyone, that it will do more harm than good.
I don't know if I would say it would do more harm than good, but I do think that they've got to find a way to sort of tighten that answer and then make a pivot back to, she recognizes, you mentioned that President Obama recognized that she faces this issue of trustworthiness. She recognizes that. And so to be able to take that and address it in a clear, concise way where she takes responsibility, as she has done, but then pivot to a broader conversation about what it is she's fighting for, then I think she can move past it. But if we get too caught up in the weeds, now he's going to make it tough for her. And I would assume that the moderator is not going to necessarily, I mean, this is going to be one of the issues I would suspect he would also press as well. So it's going to be an issue, but I do think in the context of the bigger conversation, there is a way to pivot out of it.
We have been told that she has prepared some lines to essentially goad her opponent. She did so rather famously now in her acceptance speech at the DNC, saying
he took the bait.
Somebody who you can bait with a tweet is somebody you don't want as president. She has made it clear that she is preparing for two Donald Trumps. When Donald Trump's primary season opponents tried to do that, tried to go there, it did not work well for them. Is then making plain her need to prepare for multiple Trumps more about reminding voters that there are multiple Trumps, at least
I think in part,
her eyes?
But there's a big difference between what Donald Trump is about to walk into and what he walked into in the primaries, right? In the primaries, he was on stage with 9 other people. Here it's only 1. In the primaries, the other candidates were going at each other to try to position themselves as the alternative. That dynamic is gone. And in the primaries, when they tried to goad him, they tried to do it by being Trump light, right? Using the same kind of approach, giving him nicknames, mocking his hand size or what have you. I don't think that's how she would approach it. I think, she's got other ways to get under his skin, and I think showing that temperament is going to be important. But as I started, right, they want to show that Donald Trump is temperamentally unfit to be president. They want to show that he's not a guy you want to trust with the nuclear codes. They want to show that he's not in it for you, he's only in it for himself. And that's all fine. But she cannot lose the importance of telling the American people who she is and where she wants to take the country and why they can trust her to do that.
With respect to the absolute import of Election Day, I do think it's fair to say all eyes have turned for many, many months to what will happen Monday night, and
it's going to be a show.
Hundreds of millions of Americans' eyes will be glued. Mo Elleithee, as always, we really appreciate the time.
Thank you.